Hey, how's it going? This is episode 2 of the Filmocity podcast. Today, we're talking about 42 and the legacy of Chadwick Boseman, who, as we all know, sadly passed away this week. The reason I'm introducing this by myself is because our mic got a bit crackly and a bit fuzzy during the first 5 minutes of our podcast filming. You didn't miss much, we're just introducing it and saying what we're going to be talking about today, saying what we initially thought of the film, and in summary, we all thought it was good. And now we're going to get on to our favourite scenes. Let's roll. So what were some scenes that we all thought were notable? Like if we had to pick our top 2 scenes, what do you think, Shaden?
Like I said at the start of the podcast, the film wasn't overly spectacular in my opinion. It definitely did its job, but it wasn't anything insane, right?
But it's based off a true story.
Yeah, no, but I mean just in terms of story, like the actual storytelling itself and the camera work was, it was safe. Everything was done safely.
It was a pretty standard film. Like it wasn't a crazy.
Really say what my favorite scene was.
It wasn't a crazy action film that was meant to be super cinematic. It's just meant to have your standard type shot.
I know, but I'm just saying. So, overall, the film wasn't too, it played it safe in a lot of areas. But I think one scene that I loved a lot was actually the first time we see Alan Tudyk's character racially abusing Jackie on the field. And that leads to Jackie breaking down in the hallway.
Oh, yeah. That was mine.
Not even the part where Harrison Ford comes into it. Just that solo Boseman performance was insane, in my opinion. And one of his best acting performances I've ever seen from any actor. You could really, you could feel everything that, you would expect anyone to feel in that situation coming out of him. And it's definitely not easy to do when you've probably done it 10 times.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that scene is something that really stuck out to me throughout the whole film, and I couldn't forget it even after I finished the film. It was an amazing scene.
You saw that baseball bat swinging against your wall in your sleep?
I did. It was swinging against my head. It was actually Anna.
I think probably the obvious one is the one that Shaden just said, because that's the big sort of performance, heightened tension scene in the film. And I also really liked how they shot the baseball scenes, because they made them really exciting. And if you've ever been to a baseball game, it is so boring. But they made it the way they shot, because I think I agree with you that the film was very the way that it was shot, and made it feels very safe, and this is the kind of film that I would take my grandma to the movies with, that kind of very safe, family friendly kind of movie. But I thought that they did a very good job of shooting the baseball scenes, just making them really dynamic and tension filled.
Yeah, no, that is something that I should have mentioned, is how well the baseball scenes were shot. It made it feel really tense into something I don't really give a shit about.
Well, just like Shaden and Frederick.
Started the domino
I'm going to be the only one who has...
No, I had other favourite scenes too, but...
That's so notable.
That's when I really busted my notes out for that scene. Yeah. Just for how it looks. Not for the emotional stuff was, obviously really intense, and that was that climax in the film where things starts to get to his head. And I mean, I could feel myself building up and getting really, really triggered. I wanted to punch that coach in the head. But just the shot itself, it's got leading line symmetry. He's a silhouette just screaming and smashing a baseball bat, slow track in. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the most cinematic shot in the film. Everything else is so basic. I was like, where's the cinematic shot going to be? And it was right there, and I really liked it. I took a screenshot.
That was a nice shot. The lighting was great.
And we get a Harrison Ford hug at the end, and it was very sweet.
Yeah, and then he's okay, I need a new bat.
I'm gonna go against the grain.
Okay.
Oh my god.
You okay?
No.
Jacob is 5 years old.
My scene that definitely stood out to me was actually the letters. When Pee-wee comes in with a letter to Ricky and is it's close to home, my family's going to think this of me and all that. He's kind of definitely thinking about himself at that point, until Ricky comes out with these big stacks of letters of hate mail to Jackie, saying, gonna kill your wife and your child and all this horrible stuff that he hasn't shown him. And I think that's when in Pee-wee's head it clicks, this isn't even about me. And I think that stood out to me a lot, because I remember on such a small scale, but people doing shit like that, even in New Zealand, people I've worked with, they received hate mail from, Karens and stuff. Yeah. And I just think that was a notable scene, and I feel like people don't always talk about that sort of stuff. Yeah. And his reaction to it, you can just kind of see it change in his head, and then from then on in the film, he's much more supportive and understanding. And then when he goes to stand on the field next to him, putting his arm around him and is like, you know what, I want to see who I am. He really likes
that was really powerful when he put his arm around him and the whole crowd. When the
kid?
Yeah. So the little white kid, he's obviously he's young, so he doesn't know a whole lot, and he's really excited about this baseball game. And then when Jackie walks onto the field and all of the older people start screaming curse words and slurs and really negative things towards Jackie, this kid's looking around so like almost like upset and confused, and I was like in my head thinking, you know, what's this kid thinking, what's he gonna do? And then he just starts screaming it as well, and I'm like, oh no, this is like such a bad influence on this generation and the kids and stuff. It's so bad, man, and it just really like almost upset me.
I was watching that before as well, and I just remember like sitting there thinking like, that's how a lot of that kind of shit starts. It's a generational thing. Like if you're not showing respect to someone, your kids will see them and they will look up to you, you know, as a parent or, you know, as an adult and copy that, because kids mimic shit. That's what happens. And if
they're influenced by their family,
and if you're going to poison them with racism and fascism and all that kind of shit, they're just going to carry it on. And that's how you get those little fucking redneck kids in America that you just want to run over with cars. I'm sorry.
The scene when that you were talking about, Anna, when he comes in with the letter, like I can really relate to that because I've done like a lot of acting work, especially back home in Sweden, like commercials and stuff. And I did one commercial, me and my wife, because she used to do acting as well. So we did a commercial together, and we were playing a couple, which we are. And there was so much like hate, like online and stuff like that. It was like, oh well, they're coming here and taking our white women. I'm like, so I can like relate to like all that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
People are fucking
you born in Sweden?
Born in the Cape Verde Islands, West Africa. Adopted to Sweden when I was 1, so I lived there my whole life.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So you were basically raised in Sweden. Yeah. It's not like you came at a later age and
no,
took the woman. You grew up there.
I grew up there, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I wanted to specifically ask Frederick, since you, as you just stated, having that racism, where you were from and all that. I'm guessing films like these, they really, you know, you feel them on a lot like higher level than
us, they can be
resonate is what I was looking for.
It can be a bit like triggering at times. Yeah, I kind of feel like when you have lived with it your whole life, you can sort of learn just like not to take it in anymore, sort of thing.
I'm just looking at some of the quotes that were said that were quite good. One that resonated that I still remember is the one that's at the top here, and it's by Pee-wee, and he says, maybe tomorrow we'll all wear 42 so no one can tell us apart.
Yeah,
oh, that was so
great.
Line. Yeah, that was so
that
great.
That was leading on from like my favourite scene.
Yeah.
And then because it was Jackie Robinson Day when Chadwick passed away, and
no way.
No.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
No fucking way.
When he passed away, it was Jackie Robinson Day in the States. And
no way.
Because I went onto the baseball team page because they'd posted something about him, and just before that there was a photo, and they'd all worn the 42 that day to play that game.
Yeah, they said at the end of the film that on his day, everyone in baseball wears 42, and that's like the only number that's retired by the entire league, sort of thing. Because no one can wear it.
Yeah, so that's crazy.
But yeah, performances. Like we said, I mean, Chadwick, I think had it been a lesser actor in that role, the film would have been... I mean, I think he definitely elevates the movie. His performance is like very quiet, but there's like, he just like can deliver so much emotion just like with his eyes, I feel.
Yeah, he's got a nice face.
Yeah. yeah. But I also think that Harrison Ford is really, really good in it. And I mean, Harrison Ford is like always good, but I feel like very often he sort of shows up to like collect a check or something. But in this one, it felt like he really cared about the material. And one of my favorite scenes is the scene towards the end when him and Jackie talk, and he's talking about how he saw that little white kid who was pretending to be you, sort of thing. And he was talking about how when he was younger, there was a black guy on his team and he didn't do enough for him. And that's a really good scene. He's really, really good in that scene.
Yeah. I mean, like I said at the start, he definitely felt like he carried a lot of the momentum through the whole film.
Who?
Boseman. And I think he was he was perfect for the role. I couldn't imagine anyone else playing that role. He had the right raw emotion and talent that you'd feel like the actual Jackie Robinson would have had. I like to call it silent anger, just when it's like they're not doing or saying anything, but you can see it in their eyes. Yeah, it's just top notch acting, really, from him. Someone I also wanted to shout out was Tudyk, because I've never been that pissed off in a movie before. And he literally executed what he needed to do perfectly in the worst possible way. So, big shout out to Tudyk for that film, because that wouldn't have been an easy film to actually do and take on that role and do it the way he did it, because we all know that he's a sweetheart.
Yeah, I mean...
It was so, like, you just wanted to... You wanted to take the bat off Chadwick and just swing it at his face. Honestly, I was so happy when one of the white guys stood up for him.
Yeah. And he showed up for like one scene. Like
that was it.
Scene, and that was it. Yeah.
Honestly.
When he said that when they were filming those scenes together, that he actually avoided Chadwick so that they wouldn't like become buddies and then like struggle to clash. He said, but they like hung out afterwards. Yeah. But until they'd finished filming those scenes, they didn't speak to each other and they were like separated on set. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine like if I was doing a scene like that with someone. And like they didn't even like introduce themselves like at the beginning of the day, and then you just show up and start screaming that in my face. I definitely believe that like Chad's performance there is like very much like he's probably not even acting. He's just like
probably teetering on the edge. Yeah.
I was waiting for that moment because I remember at the start when Ricky was going through the list of baseball players to choose for his team, and he picked him out. He ticked off all the boxes like, oh, he's good at this, but he has a temper or something like that. And he always said throughout the film these little things, oh, he'll be fine, he won't snap. And I was waiting for that moment, that whole time, when's he going to snap? And then the hallway scene when he snapped, I was like, there we go, attaboy, he let it out.
Because the line, no, I want a player that's got the guts to not fight back, was actually said from Ricky to Jackie.
In real life,
yeah. And it broke the highest box office record opening weekend for a baseball movie.
Cool.
I have a fun fact. Back in the late 90s, Spike Lee planned to write and direct a Jackie Robinson film.
That would have been a very different movie.
It says here, Spike Lee planned to write and direct a film based on the life of Jackie Robinson and have Denzel Washington starring as Jackie Robinson. But it fell apart due to creative differences.
I was going to say, that kind of comes full circle, because Denzel Washington paid for Chadwick Boseman to study film. Chadwick Boseman then went on to play that character in this film and then go and jump in a Spike Lee film, and it's one of his last films, Five Bloods.
Wow. Look at that. We love some full circle moments like that.
Yep.
Do you guys have any like critiques of the film? Some things that you didn't like so much, or something that stood out to you that...
Not something that I didn't necessarily like, but I felt like some of the backgrounds in those baseball scenes were like green screen. Yeah. And there was lots of poor animation. Yeah. I felt like it's almost like, you know how they're obviously going for the 40s aesthetic and they built sets and stuff. I think it's almost like they got old footage and green screen over it and all like remastered it. It was cool.
Yeah. It definitely fit the kind of movies that were coming out in like 2013 about that sort of time. It gives it the kind of authentic. I don't know, to me, like an authentic, like a early 2000s movie would look like that.
Yeah. Spider-Man, Sam Raimi.
The animation was a bit off, like the baseball firing, like the baseball throwing. You could tell when it was all obviously animated balls and stuff. You could tell it was animated. But Chadwick running at one point, I swear he was animated as well.
He's just fast as frick.
It was really interesting to watch though, like him trying to creep between the bases. Yeah. And like the suspense of that. Because I played baseball in school. I remember having to creeping between bases, and there was a lot of suspense for that. But if you weren't the person doing it, it was so boring for everyone else to watch you stand there being like, oh, am I going to do it? Yeah. But like to watch it in a film, it was quite fun, because I was like, it kind of brought me back. I was like, oh, that's actually like something that's quite funny, or like when you're playing it yourself. And obviously in that sort of scene, it's real intense because they're going at him and they're targeting him. Because they're all racists.
In terms of critiques,
there we go.
This one I didn't really have much to critique about. Like I said, it played it really safe, so there was nothing that really looked too wacky for me. I didn't even notice the CGI background, so that's good, I guess. Wow. But I think one of the only critiques I would have, coming in from like a narrative-based perspective, this story was a bit jumpy. I feel like it just decided to end scenes a bit too early, or it decided to go on too long. It couldn't really figure it out.
It's a bit jumpy because it's like it's one scene. It's like, oh, she's pregnant, and then all of a sudden it's 9 months.
Yeah, 9 months later.
Yeah,
they don't show her in between.
And they do that quite often, where they just have massive time hops, and it's like, well, I would have liked to see a little bit more behind the scenes in terms of in the changing rooms. I'd like to see a little bit more. Cause I mean, I feel like that's where a lot of the shit would have happened at the start. And it's like we got a couple of scenes, like probably 10 minutes worth, like the start when they're all.
When he went in the shower, big dick energy.
No, but it was just it was more like just because the big thing in the film was about kind of the first obstacle he had to get past was his teammates.
Yeah,
and they
did it one by one.
Yeah, but
it graduated one person at a time.
But I feel like the changing room would have been like a really good place to do that after the games because it's like if they showed a couple more games. You could have seen how they slowly, started warming up to them and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like that's something that really hopped in front really quickly. And you saw a little bit of it, especially when they couldn't get into the hotel because of them on the bus. But I think a little bit more of that just to add a little bit more.
I think that's sort of sacrifices they probably made to make the film more sort of family friendly feeling because had they gone for like a hard R kind of adult take on it, it would probably have been a lot more of that stuff. I also feel like Alan Tudyk's scene, I think that a lot of that dialogue was improvised.
He just came off the tongue. Although that would have probably been a bit more annoying, not knowing what he was going to say. Tudyk was like to the director, how many times can I say the N-word? And the director's like, yes.
But one thing...
See, the script is just...
One thing I really liked was the sound design. I thought that every time he whacked the ball, it sounded so good.
Yeah, with like good speakers.
No, it was just so clean, though. It was so satifying. Just that.
No dramatic sounds, no dramatic, like... as he's running around the court or anything.
The court?
What do you call it? The field? The pitch? Is it
the
pitch?
diamond? Yeah. It's the diamond.
I guess one critique I have, which is gonna sound a bit weird, but I feel like it's a Jackie Robinson movie, but for some reason it doesn't feel like he is in it that much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The writer...
I feel like it's a lot about Harrison Ford and surrounding people.
Yeah.
And he basically shows up when there's like a game or something, or not, maybe 1 or 2 scenes in between. But we don't really get like a big character arc, because he's basically the same the whole film. Like, he starts off as he wants to play baseball, and then he does it, and he keeps going. And there's never a moment where it's like, oh, I have to overcome this obstacle in terms of how I'm playing, or I need to...
It was definitely a film that was about the shift in the baseball league as far as their racism goes. No, it wasn't so much about Jackie Robinson, it's just how he was a part of the movement.
Yeah. I feel like there was also a lot of characters that didn't really even need to be in it. Like, I feel like the writer had way too much screen time. Because, that could have been time we could have been focusing on Jackie Robinson.
I actually liked that. Because as much as, this is a story about Jackie Robinson, and we see a lot of him, but maybe not as much as, all these other characters as well. It's a good way to kind of have a narrator inserted in. And have him as a character. And we kind of see it through him, as an audience. And we get to kind of see, how he's putting this all together and how the story's kind of being moulded, and I quite liked that.
I really like biopics that sort of focus on maybe a moment in a person's life, but when they try to go for maybe if it's like a cradle to grave story or then it usually feels like you should have made this like a 5-episode thing on HBO and fleshed out everything.
But yeah, I guess when you're trying to cover multiple bases,
I'm leaving.
That's kind of what happens.
The only part of the film that was not very true was the part when Robinson tosses the kid, Ed Charles, a baseball, and he puts his ear on the train tracks to hear the train go away. Apparently that was all made up, but everything else was true, because he went to practices to watch Robinson play and learn off him and get inspired, but he didn't put his head on a train track to listen.
I can still hear him!
Yeah, that seems so corny. I felt like that would have been fake.
I don't think it was that corny. I feel like they went out of their way a little bit to show
how he inspired the young kids.
Well, he did, but I feel like they really wanted to show you that, and they kind of overdid it a little bit. It was like every single chance they got, they did it. But that's not a horrible thing, because it is true, he did. And so similar to how Chadwick, 60 years later, inspired a lot of young black kids into acting because of Black Panther.
On that note, that's a great segue because 25 minutes into the film, when he's getting praised by Harrison Ford, he's just like, nah, I'm a ball player. And he said, nah, to all young black kids, you're a hero. And this is so true. Like, people look to Chadwick Boseman as a hero. They look to Black Panther as a hero. People look to Jackie Robinson as a hero. He's just mulled together this great hero role in person. Man, what a great guy.
Yeah, it shows how history repeats itself in really funny ways, and it's extremely reminiscent of Jackie himself. What Chadwick Boseman has done to the film industry. So it's inspiring to know that story is still repeating itself today.
Yeah.
Shout out to the air hostess who didn't let them on the plane. She was a bitch. That's my piece.
She should be dead by now.
She wasn't even an air hostess. She was a receptionist.
I thought you gotta say, shout out to her, she did a great job. Where's she going with it?
No way. She did a horrible job. She gave up their seats and that to catch a bus. Fuck that bitch.
There hasn't really been a role where he hasn't played, even if he's had like a small role, he's played someone who has, stayed on your mind after watching the film, being like, damn, this character, this was person. And he always carries his films so well. And even in like Civil War and shit. Yeah. Because like that was his first.
He's a standout in Civil War.
Yeah, he totally stole the show. And like, I mean, personally, I watched it for Sebastian Stan, for Bucky. And then as soon as he came on, I was like, who the fuck is this guy? He's my favourite.
I liked Spider-Man.
Sorry, who?
Spider-Man.
He was great.
That's how I went to see it.
Okay, Anna, what would you give the film out of 10? Put you on the spot right now. What would you give it?
I'm actually gonna give it 8 broken baseball bats out of 10. I really liked it, and I thought it carried well. I'm not too into those sort of stories, but it kept me like interested the whole way. I thought Harrison's performance was amazing. I thought the whole cast as a group worked really well together, and there wasn't really any part that took me out of the film or that kind of made me feel any which way.
I personally want to give it a 7 Harrison Fedoras out of 10. I love biopics, but sports isn't really my thing. However, this one did keep me engaged. There was only a couple of parts where I kind of felt the need to almost want to skip ahead. I didn't, but I really wanted to just because they were sort of carrying on a bit too long. But Chadwick Boseman did a great performance. Harrison Ford did great. They really pulled through, and that one scene in the hallway just really kept me going. Minus that air hostess, that would have given it an 8. Otherwise, great film.
So usually I like to be the controversial one, and I thought you guys were going to rate it higher, so I'm kind of disappointed. But
sorry.
Fuck off! You're gonna get like a 10, aren't you?
No, so I'm rating this film at a 7 Alabamas out of 10. I thought it was solid, but it definitely played it safe. There was nothing that really annoyed me apart from what was intentionally made to annoy me. So it did it served its purpose. The performances were great. But just a couple of minor story hiccups, and it probably would have got a higher score from me.
Yeah, I'll give it 7 Harrison Ford grunts out of 10. Jackie. Yo, that was great.
Jackie, come here, boy. You helped me love baseball again. Where is
Robert Pattinson, you've got competition over here.
No, like we said, performances all around are really good. Chadwick. This was the first film I saw him in, and I immediately was like, that kid's going places. I was like, he's gonna be someone.
When did you see it?
I saw this. I think I saw it like a year after it came out. So
really? So you got quite fresh when he was a new face before Black
Panther.
Yeah.
Because when was Civil War? 2016.
That was 2016.
I really enjoyed this film, and like you guys, I'm not the biggest like sports fan, but this film did keep me engaged the whole way through. Yeah. So definitely 7 out of 10.
Cool.
I'd like to talk about Chadwick's legacy. So obviously Chadwick's most notable role, especially for like us growing up with like Marvel films, will be Black Panther. And it will always be Black Panther. It was, he was the first, black superhero to have his own film. It was a groundbreaking role for Marvel as, a company, and for them to, include him and him have such a major role in all these films. It was a fucking about time. He was such this cool character. He was interesting. He was new. He brought this whole other society, of Wakanda and all this vibranium shit. Like, it all kind of made sense after Ultron losing his shit.
He really brought in a new wave of fans.
Yeah.
Especially from the black community. You see lots of kids these days who have these black kids who have a superhero to look up to. Who's the same colour skin as them. Me growing up, the only superheroes I remember from when I was, 3-4 years old was Spider-Man, Batman, Superman. Spider-Man was my favourite. But now kids have so much selection, but they're all white.
Yeah.
And now Chadwick Boseman comes in as T'Challa, Black Panther, and suddenly these kids can look at him and be like, oh, because they're all, young and innocent, they don't really understand them, but they're like, oh, he looks like me, I love this guy, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah. I mean, that was like a similar thing. I mean, not really a similar thing, like race-wise, but growing up, like, not really having someone to like, look up to and be like, look, that, I can dress up as this person for Halloween. As a girl, there's not a lot of like female superheroes until, like Wonder Woman came along. That was like so cool to like see someone who had her own movie, and I was like, fuck yeah, she's awesome. And even like Black Widow coming in and being, this strong female superhero who's finally getting her own film. But
after she died.
Yeah, too late. Too late.
Okay.
The stakes are
it's
gone.
still fresh. It still hurts. It's good to have someone to be like, that's me. I can be this person. This is someone to look up to. That's not just every white man on the screen kind of thing.
For me as well, like Spider-Man was always my favorite.
Good man.
And talk about Chadwick, like, so he fought cancer for 4 years, basically doing all his Marvel movies while he knew he had cancer, and never made it public or anything. You can see that like from like 2016 up till now, he has worked so much, and you can just probably feel that he was like, I'm probably on borrowed time, so let me just do as much as I can.
He has such a big discography for such a little time he's been acting. 2013 to 2019, that was that. So like 6 or 7 years, and he's done so much. In such a little time, with such big respect.
Yeah. When Black Panther came out, and I mean, you can say whatever you want about the movie if you think it's good or not. When that film came out, it meant so much to so many people, and me included. Because this was like the first time that we have had Blade and stuff before, I know. But this was the first time that a big Hollywood studio put like 200 million behind a film with a majority black cast, black writer, black producers, black costume departments, and the film wasn't like patronizing or anything. It wasn't like, oh, we have to like play it like this to get the black crowd in. It was just like it was so respectfully done, just this vision showing this like Africa that could have been, or what we could be, sort of thing. Yeah, it's just beautiful. I cried like a baby the first time I saw Black Panther. And I mean, it sounds like it's such a silly thing. It's like it's just a movie, but I think with him dying now, it shows that it's so even if it's so much more. Because I sometimes I'm on a set and I'm like, this is kind of silly. Like, does anyone really care? But it just goes to show you that it does matter to a lot of people, especially children who just like having someone that looks like them. This was also the first film with a lot of black actors that weren't labeled as a black film.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a movie, and that's what I think. And then it came out and made $1.4 billion or something like that. And
it was one of their biggest movies.
Yeah,
one of the biggest of that year too. It was crazy.
Yeah. So this is like opened the doors to show that, hey, there is an audience for this. So now we can hopefully start making films where it, like with Tenet, like we said, that it doesn't have to be, oh, the black guy. It can just be like the guy, and that he happens to be black. Like, it doesn't have, not everything has to be just about the race, but we can just come together as people and create art.
Exactly.
The Black Panther was the 5th highest grossing Marvel movie with 1.347 billion, very close behind Age of Ultron and the other Avengers movies.
It's the biggest solo superhero movie release, because it's only topped by Avengers, which is all of them together.
Yeah, I think something that really stood out to me, the whole thing where what did he do, like probably 6 films when he was diagnosed, when he found out about it.
Yeah.
Like, he would have known that doing that amount of films would have accelerated the process, but at the same time he wouldn't have known when he was going to go anywhere. Yeah. So the fact that he just wore himself out day after day just so he could put this out there for people or kids growing up into this, that's extremely emotional for me to even think about, because I went through, I think a lot of people have gone through the death of a family member due to cancer. they've kind of seen, they see what it does to them. They see what that kind of stuff does to them. And the fact that he's on set, 8 to 10 hours a day, busting his balls off just so he can send a message and, like, get his legacy and bring young generations up with his art. So it's extremely,
it's inspiring.
Exactly, inspiring.
He didn't have to. He could have taken time off, he could have stopped. But he just pushed through and did this just because he knew how much it meant to people.
Yeah, I guess we'll see what they... Like, I kind of feel that this might get so much hate for, but because like the image, like the imagery of Black Panther is so iconic at this point. So I don't think that they should make Shuri Black Panther just yet, because I feel she has more of her own stories to tell first.
And Killmonger burnt that whole thing, and they used that last flower to bring him back.
Yeah. So I don't know if they should. If
develop slowly, she'll keep doing her thing, and then something will happen, and then she'll have to.
They'll discover something else.
As long as they don't do a Paul Walker and CGI.
No, well, I don't think they're a bit more tasteful than that. I believe. I believe that they would.
I mean, it's possible that they just recast it.
I don't think they'll even do that.
What happened? There's a movie that did do that halfway through. Oh, Dumbledore, he got recast.
Yeah.
Because either you do a tribute like that, and then you pass the role of Black Panther to someone else. Or you just do like a hard recast and don't talk about it. I mean, I don't think they're going to do that.
They're definitely capable.
I feel like if they recast it, we'd riot. I personally would like to riot. I feel like I'm missing out on what's happening in America. I would be happy to. Something I noted was Wakanda's this whole new thing to us. Like we've done this whole world building thing with the rest of the MCU, but Wakanda's quite new. So they don't have to bring Black Panther back right away. They can do the kind of his past. This is us moving forward, and then can always bring it back when they find, a suitable person to take over this massive, massive role and be like, present them with that. And I think that would be quite a heartwarming way to like bring this character back. Yeah. Once we've had a new character come in and kind of prove themselves a bit, and then have them present them with this role.
I don't think they'll do that for a while. I think we'll probably give it almost 5 to 10 years before they even try to
They're taking a break with Marvel films at the moment.
Well, yeah, but they're trying to do a lot of introductions right now with the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, all that kind of stuff. So I think they'll probably just when that all starts coming out, then they'll try and bring it in after that, maybe.
Well, Black Panther 2 was slated to be released in 2022.
Yeah. That's why I don't know what's going to happen. They're obviously not sticking to that now because they can't. Yeah. But I'm just wondering how much. I mean, they might have started filming a couple of things.
I don't think so. I think it's still in the script writing process.
Yeah, right.
And obviously, America can't really do anything at the moment.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
Yeah. I do hope that they explore Wakanda more, because right now, as it is in the Marvel universe, it's a country, but it seems like it's one big city and a field. So I do hope that they explore the country.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's part of the world building that, it's still new, so therefore there's not a lot for us to say, we don't have much right to say, you can't do this, you can't do that. With Wakanda, you can bring something new in, and we'll all kind of be like, oh, okay. Do you want to find like a tribute message or something that like stood out or anything?
Yeah, I thought about one that Spike Lee, I saw he wrote, and he was talking about when they shot the Five Bloods last year in Thailand, and he was like, we were shooting it in in tropical heat in the jungle, and Chadwick was there every day, 10-12 hours a day, never complained. We had no idea what was going on, and he was just like in it the whole time and just like delivering an amazing performance.
Well, it shows the dedication towards his his art. That's what he loves to do, and it shows because he battled through his illness to give us his legacy, which he obviously wanted to leave.
The Robert Downey Jr. one was quite sweet.
And he just said, Mr. Boseman leveled the playing field while fighting for his life. That's heroism. I'll remember the good times, the laughter, and the way he changed the game.
Hashtag Chadwick forever.
Ryan Coogler, who's the director for Black Panther, noted that Chadwick was actually the one that came up with the line for Killmonger to say that he didn't want to be buried in Wakanda. He said he wanted to be buried, where his ancestors were when they jumped from ships and stuff. And that's a very powerful line in that film as well.
I have to say, I was so surprised that Disney allowed that line to be in one of their films. You just bury me in the ocean with my ancestors would jump from the ships because they know that.
Well, that's good
death is better than. It's an amazing line. I was like, the mouse allowed this?
No, it's good that it's changing in this way where it's like they're not trying to censor history anymore. Yeah, they're just letting people know
it happened.
Yeah.
Ryan didn't even know he was sick until after his family released that statement. And he was the director of that film.
Wow.
So he didn't even know that whole time he knew him. He was living with terminal
That's
cancer.
crazy. Because I thought for sure he would have told him, because he'd been writing the script for the second one for like 2 years.
Yeah, overall it was just sad. We didn't get to see him live out.
Yeah, that's because he was very young. And like when I found it, because when he did Black Panther, I think he was 40 or 41. And I was like, I thought he was like 29.
Yeah, no, me
I was
too.
like, what, he's 40?
I only found out the other day that he wasn't like 28.
And he's had so much left to do. Yeah. And he was attached to the film called Yusuf or Yusi or something like that. Yusi?
Oh, yeah.
Where he was going to play the first and I guess maybe the only African samurai. He married his longtime girlfriend like 3 months ago.
In like real life or in the film?
No, like for real, in real life.
He just got married
3 months ago.
Yeah, because I guess they knew.
Yeah,
of course.
They
So
would
they got married right before.
Oh,
that's really fucking sad.
Yeah, no. When I found out, so I was like sitting in my bathroom, like about to dye my hair, and I get this group, like I'm in a group chat with a few of my friends. And I get this message be like, "Oh my god, the dude from Black Panther died." And I just remember sitting there like thinking, it would have the guy who played his father or something. And I was like, "Oh my god, that's so sad." And I was like, "Wait, who?" And she's like, "The main guy." And I was like, No, I'm joking. I'm like, "Who?" And she's like, she posts the photo, and I just burst into tears. I didn't stop crying for like hours. I was dyeing my hair while listening to the soundtrack, like rapping all of Kendrick's parts and just like sobbing.
It's like kind of amazing how many people he like touched while here. Like, I mean, literally all over the world, they're like painting murals of him. They're like tweeting about it. Apparently, the tweet that his family sent out saying that he died is the most liked tweet of all time.
It's
but yeah, he just seemed like such an inspirational dude. Just seemed like such a light. It's a really big loss. It really sucks, but he opened the doors for a lot of people, and his legacy is going to live on forever.
In many ways, he is like a real life Iron Man.
Yeah.
If you think about it,
was
it Spider-Man Far From Home at the start with the painting and murals and how everyone felt about it, like it's literally replicating itself.
Crazy.
Yeah. Well, moving into
Wakanda forever.
Alright guys, that's it from us on this episode. Thank you all so much for listening.
If you have any recommendations for other films you'd like us to watch and have a wee discussion about, be it new, be it a classic, feel free to let us know. We're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, leave a comment or drop us a cheeky DM at the Filmocity podcast.
You can listen to us pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Feel free to also follow us on our Twitter, which we will make sure to post when new episodes are coming out, which is just at Filmocity Pod.
We release episodes every Thursday, so make sure to follow all of those to keep up to date. And from all of us, thank you for watching.
See you!
Catch you later!
Kakite!
Russians landed on the moon first.
Oh my god!